Take a standard DualSense controller and supercharge it. Phantom by Hex Gaming. Hey everyone, it's Techie. I hope you're all doing well. A quick disclaimer first. Hex Gaming did send out their Phantom controller for review, but they didn't pay me or ask me anything in particular to be covered in the video or avoided, and they don't get to see the video before it's published. So the controller is available for pre-order on Hex Gaming's own website now. It's out of Kickstarters, and there are two tiers. So one is $259 US, which is giving you a carrying case and a cable with all these extra sticks included. And what I received is this basic one, which is $229, and we have a 5% sale. Same with the other tier as well. And then if you do pre-order, it's end of August. And this one also has the same amount of stick tops available, which I think will be enough for anybody if they are looking for short, tall, concave, domed, or even a wide area thumbstick top. It's a standard DualSense controller with some modifications. The center shell is a little bit thicker, but the paint used on the front and the rubber grips at the back definitely makes it feel a little bit more premium than the standard DualSense controller. I have to say, grip-wise and the feel, definitely top-notch. I had no concerns. And there are no creaks or anything, because I was worried that changing these parts might make it like, it's not as solidly built. Definitely on point, nothing, no problems with any buttons or anything like that. The only thing that I can feel a little bit different from the standard DualSense controllers are the bumpers. They are a little bit easier to press here when compared to my new DualSense controller. Other than that, I think this one feels more premium than your standard DualSense controller for sure. The face buttons are still membrane, but they are using these blacked out ones. I do really like the look of these. And but in terms of usability, the membranes feel exactly like the standard ones, so nothing sort of wrong there. If you are looking for the clicky face buttons, probably other options are on the market, but this one, the Phantom, at the moment only has the standard ones. That's not a deal breaker for me. And the D-pad again is the same standard one, so it works absolutely perfectly. And I do think the aesthetics are definitely better than the standard controller. And I personally really like the blacked out design they've used. Even the touchpad, the writing and the color schemes, what they've used actually looks really nice on the controller. So with the triggers, if we don't have the stops engaged, in this full travel mode, the adaptive trigger works as well, which is great if you want to play any single play games. All those trigger effects you can feel are still going to be there. So I've tried these particular ones in Far Cry 6, because I know if you're flying a vehicle or driving a car, you do feel a lot of resistance. And I can confirm this works exactly like a standard DualSense. I did feel that they were 15% less strength in them or something, but yeah, they absolutely work with the adaptive trigger settings. And once we engage trigger stops, so this is the first time that I've experienced a mouse click trigger, which is like a third-party mouse click trigger. And I was thinking that this will be a lot less travel. Now, it definitely cuts out, the travel is so less when you really look at it. But what threw me off initially was, so we have this press, and then we have that force. The button is sort of like pressing against it that we have to go through. So firing this trigger basically felt like I was trained, like my mind, that as soon as I just press, is just going to do it. But then there was a separate step for me to actually fire the weapon. So if you are sniping or something, you really have to press this exactly when you meant to. So I did have to get adjusted to this timing a little bit. But once I got adjusted to the timing, these work so great. They are absolutely, delight to use. They are very, very nice. Once you get used to that, I think maybe they were a bit new. That's why I was feeling like, a bit more force needed to press them. But once I got used to them, pressing them actually feels really satisfying. I actually think if you don't have to press your index finger all the way in, I seem to feel like I can aim a lot better once I have that trigger press. So if I'm tracking enemies or doing anything like, an automatic weapon or something, this feels really great, especially in combination with the back button. So I think triggers are definitely a really good point of this controller. I'm really, really enjoying them. And I think I do wish that they maybe had a little bit easier to press at the bottom. But then, yeah, let's see what happens with the longevity. Because so far, this has been my daily driver, and the triggers have been absolutely perfect to use. Bumpers are just your standard bumpers, and in the standard place and stuff, they do feel a little bit easier to press here, but I've never had an accidental actuation. Every time I needed to press them, they actuated exactly when I needed to, so nothing special there. But triggers, oh yes, I absolutely, once I got adjusted to the timing, I love these triggers on the Phantom. These back buttons, I do have to say, the way they've placed actually work really well for me personally. Now, somebody can actually use these simultaneously. So if you want to, you can potentially use your ring finger for this one and the middle finger for the top one. I couldn't do that. I was just using my middle finger on the bottom ones and then just sliding it towards the top when I needed to use them. But the actuation force needed and the way they actuate, they worked absolutely perfectly for me. I have to say, I was a little bit worried because my extreme rate old controller did develop an issue where it felt like the timing was out, that I was like pressing the button at the wrong time. It happened like every now and then. These ones do perform exactly when I want them to. Slide, cancelling, jumping out, no matter what you're doing with the back buttons, they perform extremely well. Weapon swaps, reload, especially having 4 back buttons, which are like so nicely placed, makes a huge difference. And I can see that in my playtime, the way I basically use the controller. Personally, I think DualSense is the best aiming controller, but just having these 4 back buttons makes it so that I pick this one every time that I want to use. And it's honestly, it's just the way they've made the controller with the grip and the back buttons. That's what it is. So the back buttons, I personally think if you are easily used to 2 back buttons, you're not going to have an issue using the top 2 or the bottom 2, which whenever you feel like. I do wish they had a little bit of a grippy texture on them. Other than that, I think they actuate absolutely perfectly. The force needed has been absolutely fine. I have over 30 hours of game time on this particular unit, and they've been absolutely perfect. And this is my daily driver now, so I will be able to update how they perform a month down the line or 2 months down the line. So yeah, back buttons definitely perfectly executed. I can't find any information what their life rating is, what type of switch they've used. They do feel like the one from the extreme rate kits when I press them, just like, hearing the sound and stuff. But in terms of using them, man, they've been absolutely perfect for me. The physical thumbsticks, these standard concave ones, can actually take Control Freak's the performance thumb grips. So I have the Galaxy here, and this is the PlayStation one, but you have to be a bit forceful for it to get on, and it will definitely be damaging it a little bit. So be mindful of that. But if you want to use Control Freaks, you can use the PlayStation ones. Its own basically material, what they've used, actually is not bad. And somebody who uses a lot more thumb area might actually find that they don't need sort of any grip and stuff on it, because we have so many different options included in the box. Tall ones, wide ones, concave. So whatever anyone needs is definitely there. Personally, for me, I need a little bit more grip than this. So for me, what I've been doing is just using the no-slip grips by Control Freaks, and just using the standard area size on the left and the wide one on the right. This worked the best, and this is how I've been using the controller since day one. And we are lucky that we have the standard height wide area, and then we have a tall one as well. So depending on how much grip you need, you might not even need any extra accessories, but if you do, I think just the standard grips will be sufficient for the amount of sticks that we have in the package included. All right, the thumbstick performance, guys. I've already made a video on the drifix module where I've explained exactly what's going on, what the drifix module is doing, and I showed that it has no effect on the performance of the sticks. We still don't have any minimum dead zones added, and in terms of resolution, the drifix module doesn't affect that. And what they've done here slightly different is we have a little bit of a smaller active area. So we are reaching the 100% values a little bit before than your standard DualSense will do. And in the diagonals is going basically farther out. That's because if we are to adjust the center point, so let's say when the spring develops the play and our center point is no longer in the center, or if it's gone a little bit, let's say 4% to the right, and you bring it in, you want to still be able to get to 100% in the opposite direction where you are shifting the center point. So I explain everything in that video, that the drifix module still allowing us to get 100% in every direction. And I even tested for adjusting in the opposite direction and checked if we had any skipped resolution or once we offset that center point. And then if we were going in the other way, could we reach 100%? Was there a resolution loss or something? Because if we are adjusting it and suddenly the whole because the whole active area is adjusting, it still gives us the full resolution. Now, if you don't like this 12-13% error rate and you want the standard DualSense 8-9%, the difference is very minimal. In my opinion, this is better because I found it to be a bit more responsive even in my latency test as well. But if you do want to do that, there are web tools available. You can make this controller just calibrate it exactly like the DualSense controller. But if you do that, if you lose the Hex gaming calibration, and then imagine an update comes out and that tool, the calibration tool, gets patched out and you can't use that anymore, then the drifix module is not going to be usable. So if you are thinking that you're going to utilize the drifix module, which I think should be a factor of getting this controller, if the spring develops an uneven play, then you can do that. Then keep the Hex gaming calibration what they've used, because I think this is a very thought out calibration. And the performance of this controller, this is a standard DualSense controller and it performs like one on PS5. Absolutely great. No matter what type of play style, this performed absolutely perfectly. I think the sticks, I personally really liked that they were a little bit more sensitive than the standard controller. I still think DualSense Edge is the best aiming wise on PlayStation 5. That's just like my opinion. I think that controller is insane. But having 4 back buttons and having that standard performance, it's a great feature. And I was worried having this drifix module can somehow affect the aiming or something of the controller negatively, and it doesn't. It actually definitely adds value, in my opinion, that we will be able to adjust the center point. I know we have the calibration tool. We could potentially do that with a standard controller, but having the module just there, it's a great feature as well. So with the sticks wise, if you are happy with the standard DualSense aiming wise, this is not going to be an issue. In my opinion, will be a little bit of a benefit when it comes to responsiveness. Final verdict, guys. So this has been my main controller for the last 3 weeks and I am really enjoying it. Performance wise is absolutely performing extremely well. The back buttons are so good to use. Never happened that I mispressed them or when I needed to use them, they didn't work. Exactly actuated when I wanted to use them. So that's really great. The triggers are, again, once you get used to them, really great to use. The whole ergonomics are just like standard DualSense controller. If you are used to it, you're not going to have any issues here whatsoever. The drifix module doesn't affect the aiming negatively, and I think in the long run will definitely help if I do end up developing uneven play on the springs. But longevity is something that I am a little bit concerned about, especially when it comes to the back buttons and the triggers. That's something I'm going to have to update you guys on later on. And I'll definitely be able to do that because I'm using this controller a lot. So far, with the 30-40 hours of game time I've put on this particular unit, this has performed really well. And nothing has changed on the controller whatsoever. It is never disconnected, never happened that, the drifix module caused any issues or whatever, I had to do anything. Always just how I set it up, it's always like that. So that's a big plus for me. Reliability is definitely going to be something that I'm going to be testing on this controller. At this point, I'd like to ask you guys if any one of you have this controller and what are your experiences. If anything gone wrong with the drifix module or the back buttons, definitely share your experience in the comments below. I'm very keen to find out what, how the back buttons are lasting and the triggers, and especially, if the drifix module, because my concern is if something happens to it, if I don't know if you drop it or whatever, and it's just moving by itself and it just ends up developing drift where you have no idea, and then you have to keep adjusting it and you have to make sure you're holding the controller very still. Those are my concerns, but I don't think it's going to happen because I am very rough with my controllers and this is performing really well. So definitely share your experiences, and thank you so much to everyone who subscribed. Your support means a lot. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Hopefully I'll catch you in one of my other videos. Bye for now.